strong.
Hello all and welcome back to the channel. I am Masked Gaming and here today we have the Stamina dragonknight bleed build, or as I call it, the slash and burn. Today I'm going to be going over how the build works, and stick around throughout the whole video to understand the inner workings of this fantastic PvP build that I'm sure you will all enjoy. Now, as we go to the character screen, you can see that I am a Nord with 64 points into stamina. We're using the dubious Comoran throne for the extra max health, max stam and the stam recovery. And we are also using the warrior Mundus, increasing our weapon damage by 411. Now our stats, as you can see, are very nice. On the back bar we have 3.4k weapon damage with 32,000 maximum stamina. We also have 21,000 spell resistance and 18,000 armour, or as it was called before the patch, physical resistance. We have a nice critical resistance number of 2,703, and our stam recovery is sitting at a nice 1.1k. Now as we switch to our front bar, you will see that we are at 4k weapon damage with a 43% weapon critical and very similar stats across the board. So let's move on to the gear. We're running 7 medium with this setup. This is purely because we want to have as much damage as we can in this setup, as you'll learn why later. In the setup for weapons, we are running a two-handed weapon and a sword and board setup, with Blessing of the Potentates on the back bar to increase resistances to players. This is very handy because in the PvP environment we want to take as little damage as possible while dishing out as much as we can. We have an increased weapon damage enchant on our sword. The sword is meant to be defending, so I do apologise for that. And we have a Divine's Shield. Now on our two-handed weapon we're running a greatsword for the extra 4% damage done in the passives for two-handed weapons. We are running double dot poisons with Nirnhoned enchant trait to allow us to hit that 1.8k weapon damage. Now on the armour, this is where the build begins. We are running a deadly helmet. Now deadly, as you can see, is very nice for base stats, increasing our weapon damage by 129, our weapon critical by 833, translating to what I believe is an extra 3% critical. On 4-piece it adds an extra 129 weapon damage, and on the 5th item it increases the damage of our physical, bleed, poison and disease damage over time, and channeled abilities do by 20%. Now this 20% means we can hit harder with our poisons and our two-hander with our skill setup that I will be showing shortly. Secondly, we are running the brand new set that comes from the new dungeon Stone Garden. Oh no, I do apologise, it's not from Stone Garden, it's from Castle Thorn. Castle Thorn is the brand new dungeon in Western Skyrim. I am performing this build on the PTS, which is based on the up-and-coming update Stonethorn for the console patches and PC, which we'll be releasing very shortly if I'm not mistaken. This set is called Unleashed Terror. Now what it does is it adds weapon damage, adds maximum stamina, and on the 5th bit, this is where our build gets very exciting. This set with my current setup hits for 31,000 bleed damage over 5 seconds. So in a PvP context, this means due to resistances we're looking at a 13 to 15k bleed over 5 seconds on a player, averaging around 3k per second just from this bleed. Now this bleed can only be triggered by a direct damage, charge, leap, teleport or pull ability, and you'll see how I trigger this bleed very shortly. For the rest of our armour we are just running the other sets to get our 5-piece, all of this in Divines and Medium, all with stamina enchantments just to drive up that maximum stamina number. You'll notice on the necklace we are running a Potentate's necklace for when we are on our back bar, giving us that extra 15% ultimate cost reduction in case we need to press the oh no button to save ourselves. Next, we have the second most important part of this build, the Malakath's Band of Brutality. Now you're probably thinking, Masked, why run this? It doesn't let you crit. Well, you're right and wrong. You see, it boosts all of our damage done by 25%, and it says that we cannot deal critical damage. However, as we don't have much critical chance as a Dragon Knight ourselves, I've made the decision to remove all my chances of crit and give myself a permanent damage buff, increasing the damage of my dots by a further 25% constantly without having to rely on a chance to get my raw damage. However, thankfully this does not affect crit healing, so we can still get those nasty Vigor and Rally heals, and all the other heals that we have as a Dragon Knight will be boosted by this as well, allowing us to have our critical heals. So do not be worried when you see it doesn't say that we can't do critical damage, we can still critically heal. And finally, we just have a Deadly Ring to finish off our 5-piece of Deadly. Now you'll notice that all of the jewellery is infused with weapon damage enchants, just to drive up our raw damage. We're not too concerned about maximum stamina, but if you feel like you're running low on sustain, I would recommend running 2 infused, 1 robust, to allow for that extra 833 stamina. Or you can run your 3 infused jewellery and have 1 stamina regen enchantment on your jewellery. Now we're going to move on to skills. On our front bar, we are running a Dizzying Swing as our main spammable, hitting for a total of 12,000 physical damage and setting them off balance. Targets that are immune to off balance are instead snared by 40% for 2 seconds. This means that they cannot run away as fast. They can still run, but they're 40% slower, which is brilliant. Next, we have Executioner for the extra damage, just to finish them off if they get below 50% health, because as Dragon Knights, we want to be able to just end the fight and move on to our next target. Next, we have Rally for the nasty burst heal and the major brutality. We have Camo Hunter for the Fighters Guild passive that increases our weapon damage per Fighters Guild ability slotted, as well as the fact that having it slotted increases our damage done by 8% when we deal critical damage from an enemy's flank. Now I know we cannot deal critical damage, but it's just a nice passive to have, especially with the critical rating, as there are alternative setups to this build. I may not have mentioned, but what you can run is you can run the Masterlock monster set, which triggers off of a bash. But that means you would have to give up your Malakath's Band of Brutality, so it is all about give and take in this build. You can choose to either crit and have other bonuses, or you can have raw damage and have everything consistent. It is completely up to you. Next up we have the Venomous Claw. Now I'm using this not because of the damage it does, but because of the damage over time it does. As you can see here, I currently hit for 20.5k poison damage over 14 seconds, and every 2 seconds we do 20% more damage with this poison, adding up to not even the 25k, but even higher. I'm talking potentially a 30k to 40k bleed over 14 seconds. Which is brilliant. And finally, of course, we have the Take Flight, because this is our main crowd control saviour. It puts a stun on the enemy that they cannot break free from, giving you time for a strong execute to finish off the fight. Now onto the back bar. We have Noxious Breath for the extra damage over time of 14k and the major fracture on enemies. We have Shielded Assault now, using on the one hand and shield skill line. This is because it triggers our Unleashed Bleed damage set, as well as giving us a slight damage shield as an extra bonus when we hit them. Plus it's also a nice stun with good range to get those enemies who try to run away from you, and there will be many people running away as soon as they see you coming in Imperial City. Next up we have a Vigor that has a 15k tooltip unbuffed. Now this can be further increased by Fragmented Shield, which is a Magicka damage shield. This triggers Major Mending, which increases your healing done by 25% for 6 seconds, which is very nice, and making sure that all of your healing done is even stronger, even for a stand build. You will be one of the strongest healers out there for yourself. Next up, we have Cauterize, which is a 5k heal every 5 seconds. But the main reason I run this is because of the Major Prophecy it grants. Now, we may not be using any spells, but Major Prophecy applies to critical heals. So the higher this is, the higher chance that our Cauterize will critically heal us, which is also something very important to us. Now finally, this was a bit up for debate. I personally chose Corrosive Armour. Corrosive Armour is brilliant as it limits all damage done to you by 3% of your maximum health, as well as dealing a 1.4k damage every second for 12 seconds to nearby enemies. Plus as well, while this is active, all of your direct damage attacks, such as Execute and Dizzying Swing, will ignore all of the enemy resistances, as well as making it so that all the damage that they do to you will only tickle you as opposed to kill you instantly. Or, as an alternative, you can run the Sigic Ultimate Temporal Guard, reducing all damage done to you by 8%. This is nice, it's a constant buff. However, the whole point of running Potentates on the back bar is so that we get the extra chance to use Corrosive Armour when we need to say, oh no, I'm going to die. Now, let's move on to champion points. Let's start off in the tower. In the tower we have 19 points into Warlord. We could probably do with some more. However, as a Dragon Knight, the idea of this build is to put constant pressure on the enemy so they don't have time to stun you. However, these 19 points will allow you to be able to break free whenever you want to. We have 75 in Tenacity for our heavy attacks to give us more stamina and magicka, as we are missing a bit of sustain with this build. Plus as well, the extra 14% stam recovery is a nice bonus to have with 75 points into Mooncalf. Next up we have 60 points into Shadow Ward, because blocking is a key part of this build. Going onto our back bar we may need to block a little bit just to protect ourselves while we heal up, as well as tumbling, allowing us to roll dodge at a 16% cost reduction. It just means that we can use all of our green points and allow us to have that extra bit of combat flexibility. Now we have no points into the Apprentice. We have 45 points into Master at Arms, not as many as other builds because this is not our main focus. We have 75 points into Thaumaturge, increasing our damage done with damage over time effects by 23.4%. I would put a full 100 points into here, however I feel like my points were better spent, as the difference of 1.6% is not worth losing an extra 25 points out of something else. 75 I believe is the magic number for champion points. We have 50 points into Precise Strikes, increasing our crit damage and crit healing. Crit healing is very important for our Vigour and our Rally by 18.75%. We have Piercing, we have 50 points into that, increasing our physical penetration by 4,000. Next we have 50 points into Mighty. Now Mighty is very key as well, as it increases our physical, poison and disease damage done by 11.25%. This is very important, as that 11.25% applies to our double dot poisons on our two-handed weapon, and our Venomous Claw, as well as our Noxious Breath. Now in the Warrior we have 60 points into Ironclad, reducing damage done from direct damage attacks to you by 21%. We have 60 points into Resistant, to make up for the fact we are not wearing any impenetrable armour, increasing our critical resistance by 1.3k. We now have 50 points in Thick-Skinned, Elemental Defender and Hardy. Hardy reduces our physical poison and disease damage taken by 11.25%. Elemental Defender does the same but for Flame, Frost, Shock and Magic damage. And Thick-Skinned reduces damage taken from fellow dot builds such as this by 18.75%. We have no points into the Lord. Now, we are now going to proceed to the dummy to be able to show you the rotation on this build. Just running the old Earth-Tear Cavern home. It recently came back out onto the Crown Store on the PTS, and it is one of my all-time favourites. Now, I only had my camera zoomed in for purposes of the video. Let's now get zoomed back out to my favourite position. So, when you start off this build, you're going to want to pre-buff up with Rally. Now, Rally is very important. You want to keep that up as much as you can for that extra burst heal, because if you see now, I've got 14 seconds remaining on it. If I just leave that for an extra 5 seconds, so it's got 5 seconds left, I will then press the button again and you will see there was no heal. That's because I'm already at max health. I probably should have turned on the healing tooltips. That is my mistake. Now, to start off a fight, you always start off with Rally. Very important. Then you switch bars. Now, just at the beginning of a duel, or if I'm running around Imperial City or Cyrodiil, I like to keep Obsidian Shield up, Fragmented Shield up, as well as Cauterize and Vigor. Just allows us to get an extra heal in, keep us healed just in case we get surprise attacked. Now, we do not want that, because in Nightblade, in Imperial City and Cyrodiil recently, there have been a lot of gank builds and snipe stackers, so we want to maintain our resistances. So let's just do that again. Rally, Fragmented Shield, Cauterize, and Vigor. Now, as soon as a fight starts, what you want to do is you want to go to your back bar with your sword and shield, and you want to trigger the original bleed from Unleashing, which is from the Shield Bash. As you can see here, there is a 10-second bleed on them that is dealing 2k damage every second. And as you can see, that buff is now gone. But if I do it again, it's back up, which is absolutely amazing. As soon as you hit them with that, you want to follow up with a Noxious Breath to reduce their resistances. As you can see, the cracks in their health bar means their resistances have been reduced. Next, you'll switch to your front bar and hit them with a Claw. Now, at this time, your rotation probably taken a bit of time to do, so I recommend you hit Rally again just to get that extra heal, and then just keep on hitting them with D-Swing for a little bit until your Claw's gone, and then rebuff the Claw, switch to your back bar, hit them with the stun, do the breath, heal up if you need to, and just maintain all your heals. Now, I'm running the Alliance Battle Draught for the extra damage that it provides, this weapon critical, and the fact it restores 8k stamina. This is a cheaper alternative to crafting your own weapon damage pots, as recently in the Greymore patch they made it so that these potions now can be bought with Major Brutality and Major Savagery from the Battlegrounds vendor for Alliance points, costing I believe 690 points as opposed to having to get all of the materials together to craft these. Now let's just go over that again. So we rebuff with Rally, switch to our back bar, keep our heals up, and then hit them with the Shield Bash. Make sure you do light attacks between every single one of your attacks, as it just means that you're able to get that extra damage off. That extra damage is very important. It just allows us to get that extra little burst from all of the damage we do. Now I'm maintaining Rally, as you can see. This is only a 3mm target dummy. I'm not expecting to do any real damage here. As you can see, all we have here is orange numbers on this enemy. It's just constant orange, loads of damage. Translate this into PvP. Not many people would be able to resist all of this. Now, it may sound like I'm trying to plug my own build. However, as you can see, the damage from this is pretty insane. We're not even spec'd for PvP. PvE, sorry. We're not designed to hit this hard to a dummy. We're not designed for stamina sustain. We're not designed for anything else in PvE. We are just hitting this raw damage. Now, Malakath's band is brilliant for a number of reasons. It just means that we can hit constant damage without having to rely on a percentage chance to hit really high damage. Now, you notice sometimes that my shield bash that I'm doing really just is lagging a little bit. Now, that's not because of my connection. The animation for shield bash is very strange. Sometimes it will make you travel more distance than you need to and just completely miss the enemy, which is quite bad because then you're left in the middle of nowhere with no damage. There's no stun on the enemy, but if you do miss, just spam it until they get stunned. The stun on the enemy is quite important because it allows you to then follow up loads of D-swings. In PvE, I'm hitting 11k D-swings, which is very nice. 11k is a nice modest number to be at, which means in PvP that's about 6k. Maybe about 7k if you can get the right mix. Now, because of the ultimate use, another alternative instead of Master Lock, if you choose not to use my Malakath's band setup, is to use Balorgh. However, my belief with Balorgh is that it doesn't require anything. It's not special. The idea with my builds is to make a special setup for people to be able to just make a build that isn't meta monkey and that isn't basically just following a generic Alcast build that just tells you to run the same old stuff that you were running 2 patches ago. It's pointless and it just makes it so that the game is very boring. At Masked Gaming, we do aim to bring you unique builds and, might I say, very stylish characters. For those of you wondering, because there are some people out there who like style, I'm running the full Trinimac heavy armour with the Hollowjack heavy helmet with Frostcaster weapons. Very nice setup. I do like fashion in this game, it's brilliant. But yeah, that is the build, guys. If you do have any questions, please put a comment into the comments section and drop a like or dislike if you don't like it. I do appreciate all feedback from you guys. I'm trying to start this channel up, and any feedback from you guys will be really good for my own learning on how to conduct this YouTube channel better and make the content more likeable for you guys and help you guys understand how I play and how I can share my play style with you all. So that is the video, guys. That is the end of it. Please drop a like and subscribe, as I said before. It helps the channel grow. And I will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much.